welcome to another episode of Executive Talk. My name is Maurice Washington. I want to welcome those who are watching on Facebook Live, on TV, or on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure if you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube that you know that you can actually leave some comments, because we'll make sure that we'll communicate with you, answer any questions that you may have as you're viewing the show, and we can help you out along the way. So, in continuation of our series, Illuminating the Darkness in Your Business, this series I know specifically that you will find enlightening. Because again, everybody has an issue with this. It's probably one of the most silent assassins within your business, and you'll never know that it shows up. And it's also more importantly, it's something in your business, but more importantly, it starts within. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. What is starting within? What are we talking about? So as you know, here at Executive Talk, we always like to bring up your childhood to adulthood because, again, it's all relevant. Your business is nothing but an entity with your not with your SSN, but with your tax ID number. Okay? But one thing that's constant in your business is you. So we need to talk about you and where you land. So let's talk about 0 to 18 in this particular circumstance. 0 to 18, you have a paradigm. Your paradigm shift is based off of everything that you knew growing up. Everything that your dad taught you, everything that your mom taught you. If it was a single family, if it was grandparents, whatever paradigm that they had, what became your paradigm. Now, obviously, when you got into your teenage years, you start to fight a little bit of that paradigm. That was a battle. But nonetheless, it is still ingrained in you. So, again, part of your adult or your childhood is this 18 years of a paradigm that what you know about it or not is kind of irrelevant. The point is, it's actually ingrained in you. Okay? So then now you're 18 years old. You're a grown adult based on our standards. Okay? So you have 18 to the rest of your life, whenever that last day is. But in that time frame, let's help you understand something about this paradigm that was jammed in you, or taught to you, I should say. Well, everything that this paradigm was taught becomes your perspective. It becomes what and why you see it that way. So when you say, well, when you're having a conversation with somebody, you know how it goes. Well, I see it this way. I see it this way because this is how it is. Well, your paradigm is working in that circumstance. Okay? So there goes your eyes. There's your perspective. Now, let's think about your mindset. Well, you have your own understanding. That is your mind being shaped up. So 18 on, you have your own understanding of how life is and how life really should work. Because you have your paradigm that you grew up with, and then you have your paradigm going in, trying to implement what your paradigm is. Now, your choices, what you speak into your life. You start speaking the same life that your paradigm that was taught to you showed up. So these things are actually already prepared for you in adulthood. So by the time you hit 18, your eyes, your mind, and your mouth, and your heart, most importantly, is actually set up from this paradigm, and every other function is operating from that direction. So now you have your paradigm, and that becomes you. Is there anything wrong with your paradigm? Well, let's talk about the paradigm. Paradigm specifically creates pride on earth. This is where the most miscommunication and communication that we have with people starts to have its biggest influence. So part of a paradigm, I can use my paradigm to actually help influence the way that your paradigm sits right now. And so right now, the way that you're receiving what I'm saying to you, we're actually having a paradigm battle. I'm talking about a paradigm that's coming through my perspective. And the thing is, in this conversation, as you're watching, you can either come into agreement with it, or you can battle it the whole entire time. But in these paradigms, I have the choice you have the choice to battle what's being said to you right now. So again, there's a pride that actually sits in between us. So the most dividing part of our relationship here on earth is from pride. which pride goes straight to idolatry. If you want to know how quick you can get into idolatry, I just created a circumstance so we can actually know exactly how pride actually set up this viewing and how the way that you receive executive talk and what's being said to you. So through idolatry, you can fight me on everything that I'm saying right now. That's how powerful your paradigm is, and most importantly, how importantly pride is. Pride is hidden in the word ego. See, here on earth, we like to say that darn ego, that ego's in the way. Man, can't believe I have an ego. And you know, you see it in business owners. We have a big ego and this is how we operate. And we actually have conformed to say pride is okay. How many people have said in your life, that person has a lot of pride in their work? See, now all of a sudden the word pride has actually become a good thing. Have we gone crazy? I think we have. And I'm going to tell you why. Again, this show in particular, I want you to put your business all the way to the side, because in order to understand the next show, we have to understand the base of pride, because we have actually gotten used to the word pride, and pride is actually okay based on earthly standards. We've conformed to what pride is. And so, again, in order to actually understand why pride is a bad thing, first and foremost, you'll never understand the next show in the next part of this series. So let's keep on going. So the title of this new series within Illustrating the Darkness in Your Business is The Thorns of Pride. Okay, so again, is pride a good thing? Okay, think about the title, The Thorns of Pride. Pride never produces anything good. But unfortunately, we have turned pride into good because, again, some of those examples I just talked to you about. So let's go ahead and get into the characteristics of pride. Okay? So one thing about pride is, again, on earth, what we have done with pride is two different things. We have weakened the impact of the word pride, and we have changed it into ego. So we've actually gotten further away from what the meaning of pride is. Okay? And also, we do not understand what the characteristics are of pride. So when we start saying the word pride, I have pride in my work, I want you to think about it after this show. Okay? So here are the characteristics. As always, this is going to be very scripture heavy, everybody. So I just want to make sure you pay attention to the flow here. So Genesis 2:16. It reads, this is God speaking to Adam. You were free to eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die. So let's think about this base of instruction. This instruction sounded is very clear. And it's actually very much so, there's a bubble in this word. When he says, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die, that's where the bubble, that's where the protection actually sits. He's telling you the end result in his word of what will happen after you do the action. If you eat from it, you will certainly die. Okay? So that's how God works. When God speaks, and when he gives instruction, there is something outside of that fence of that instruction that if you eat from it, you will die. So part of us is we're actually not supposed to experience all the things that our hearts are not able and should experience all the things that it does. But it's under constant attack, isn't it? Either through us or through society as a whole. Okay? But again, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die. Was there any pride present at this time? Not at all. Adam said, okay. Obviously, he didn't say okay, but he didn't eat from the tree. Eve came along. She didn't eat from the tree. Everything was just fine. Okay? At the end of Genesis 2, it says they were both naked and they felt no shame. Okay? So that was at the end of the fence. If they ate of that tree, that dying is that feeling of that shame. Now, Genesis 3, 4 through 6. Now, I fast forwarded to a couple of scriptures ahead, but let's think about the scriptures behind. They said the serpent is craftier than any other animal in that garden. Okay, so there's a craftiness that comes with the enemy and the serpent. Now, I wanted to help you understand some of the language that actually is changed in here. So right now, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die. Okay, you will certainly die. Now, the craftiness of the enemy starts here. You will not certainly die. Okay? At this time frame, the word that actually changes the dynamic of God's word is this word not. As soon as this word not was inserted into this statement, it actually can change the whole narrative as to what God is speaking. So as soon as he says, yes, you will die, but then the enemy says, no, you will not certainly die. And if you come into agreement with it, well, then the narrative, so let's go ahead and just block out, you will not certainly die. What happened to Eve's heart at the time? Something about her said, It negated the instruction, okay? But then it started to think, you will certainly not die. As soon as that opportunity came, well, then the new narrative can be introduced into your life. And that's what the enemy did in this circumstance. He introduced a brand new narrative that Eve had never heard of before. He went up here and said, okay, now that she's come in agreement, it's not like she talked me out of it. Not like she got upset. She's just kind of listening. So let me go ahead and keep going. The serpent said to the woman, for God knows, okay, this is when the narrative starts to change, that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened. Okay, that's what will happen. And so actually what will happen is you will be like God, knowing good and evil. See, that's the reason why he didn't want you to eat from the tree. You're not going to die, girl. Come on. Okay, that's in context as to how he was approaching Eve in that frame. Because right now, he's in her head. He is kind of romancing her head and getting her to see something different. See, now there's a new narrative in her life. When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some of it and ate it. She also gave some to her husband, and he ate it. Okay, so this woman saw that it's good for food, okay, and it's pleasing to the eye, and it's desirable for gaining knowledge. Her whole flesh became inflamed in that way. This became the ultimate agreement that she ended up doing. She agreed to the matters of the flesh. And what's Adam also ate of it also, so did he. So now, the Adam and Eve, what did they do? They hid themselves. So now they conformed. They became very prideful in their stance. So, the cycle of pride. First of all, you have to come into agreement to a new language. That's the first entryway into your life, into your spirit. And we see that example in Adam and Eve. That's why we wrote that here. You eat of his fruit and you actually choose. You actually choose it once you eat of his fruit. So as soon as this new narrative, this new language is part of you, and if you start operating in it, it's the same concept as you eating from it, well, then now it's infiltrated into your spirit. Once you start to conform to this new language, guilt, shame, that's where you start operating in your daily lives with fig trees. That becomes your whole being. And so let's go ahead and take this example here. And so let's talk about conforming real quick and see what that looks like. So Adam and Eve, their spirit was pure. As soon as they came into agreement with the new language, step one happened. Okay? Just a little bit. Just the fact that they started thinking it through. Well, they ate of that fruit, of that new language. And then now their life became conformed to that new language. you saw how the rest of the story went. Why, the woman that you sent me, well, the serpent over there tempted me to do this. The whole cycle of everything was off balance from there because, again, they have conformed to a new language. Now, something about pride. It has to, see, that spirit, the water was pure before darkness entered into it. But for darkness to be effective, it has to actually defile the spirit. Okay, so I actually just defiled this water. So as soon as you take in a different dialogue or a different language than what you're used to, well, then what happens is your spirit, your internal spirit becomes defiled. And so the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. What kind of characteristics does a thief come with? He comes with stealing. He comes with killing and destroying. So understand your spirit is already under attack because he's going to try to conform you with pride, with the same functions of pride, to make sure that you start operating in that way. So let's think about it. Man and woman. Okay? So every man and woman here on earth is under attack and is very open to this thing called pride. Now, it needs a host. The enemy actually needs because the enemy is death. The enemy needs a host in order to exude his characteristics, so his characteristics are live. Okay? And if you become the viable host, if your pride needs to be relevant. In order for pride to be relevant, if you don't accept pride, if Adam and Eve never just told the enemy to go away, well, the story would have been completely different. But pride became relevant, and their action was prideful by covering themselves. First of all, they felt no shame. Now they do feel shame. See, now they took on the characteristics of pride just that quick. They've already conformed. So again, how long did it take for this water to conform to this dye? It didn't take very long. As a matter of fact, you probably looked at the water, you probably even conformed and said, okay, well, what's going on next? What's wrong with this photo? I want you to look at this closely. What's wrong with this photo? Well, we got sheep around, but what's wrong with this one sheep looking at us? And so let's think about it. Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree produces good fruit, but a bad tree produces bad fruit. A good tree cannot produce, there's probably bad fruit there. Every tree that does not produce good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. So I want you to understand something here. With this, the sheep's clothing, in regular flesh and blood, sheep's clothing, but inwardly, okay, they were ferocious. Look at the eyes here. Look at what the internal conforming component to this sheep. Okay, sheep's clothing, but internally, there's something ferocious about this sheep. It's just lurking around. So that's what pride does. It lurks around. It's ferocious. So the longer part of the characteristics of pride is ferociousness. So you got to add a little bit more to your spirit, defile it just a little bit more. Okay? So let's think about something else. Every tree that does not produce good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Do you see that the enemy wants you to conform so that way you go the same direction he's going? Do you see the conforming issue of pride? You start walking in the same way he's going because, again, God said, every tree that does not produce good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. So there's only a direction for where those sheep are going to go. So again, by their fruit you will recognize them. So let's talk about some more characteristics. Revelation 12, 7 through 9. Then a war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and his angels fought back. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads people, the whole world astray. He was hurled to earth and his angels with him. So, what does this talk about Revelations? What do you think I would actually bring up? Why do I want to come back here? Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and his angels fought back. So one thing that the enemy would do with the conforming thing of pride to make sure you don't have that relationship with God is turn you into a fighter. You don't just fight the world. You actually have learned. He will teach your heart how to fight against God's instruction. So you're actually waging the same war and same characteristics as the enemy, because that's what he did. He's using you to wage war against God and keep his presence felt here on earth. What about Ezekiel 28:13 through 16? You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every kind of precious stone adorned you: ruby, topaz, and diamond, beryl, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and emerald. Your mountings and settings were crafted in gold, prepared on the day of your creation. You were anointed as a guardian cherub, for I had ordained you. You were on the holy mountain of God. You walked among fiery stones from the day you were created. You were blameless in your ways, till wickedness was found in you. So part of the pride that comes with it is the hidden iniquity, wickedness. That's what pride comes with. Through your widespread trade, you were filled with violence. Part of the conforming aspects of pride, violence. And you sinned. So you drove into disgrace from the Mount of God, and I expelled you. So how does God treat pride? Banished. How did he treat Adam and Eve when they sinned? Did he what? He banished them, did he? So he did the same thing to the enemy as well. And I expelled you, guardian cherub, for among the fiery stones. Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to earth. I banished you to earth on account of your proudness and also because of your corrupted wisdom. Okay? That's what pride starts to create. Let me go ahead and bring this one up. Why do you not understand what I'm saying? This is Jesus talking. It is because you're unable to accept my message. You belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out his desires. See, there's a part of us in pride. We actually are carrying out his desires. He was a murderer from the beginning, okay? Refusing to uphold the truth. So again, in pride, are you holding truth? No, there is a refusal to uphold the truth internally. Because there is actually no truth in him. So if you're conforming to his ways, his prideful ways, there's no truth in you either. When he lies, he speaks a native tongue. What did he do to Adam and Eve when they were in the garden? You will certainly not die. See, he spoke a native tongue to them. And he changed the dialogue. So when we're operating in that way, we're speaking a native language. In the absence of God, we have to create our own language in order to operate through life. In absence of the word, we're operating through a whole new different way of life that we have created. Again, what did we talk about in the very beginning? Our paradigm. Our paradigm is all we know, and that becomes our prideful way. Are we speaking God's language? No, we're speaking our own native language based on our paradigm, because again, we're trying to make it through life, because time is a long thing if you don't know what to do with it. Okay, because he is a liar and the father of lies, but because I speak the truth, you do not believe me. So when we go to church, if we hear the word and he says no, we try to figure out a way to say yes. This is the way that God's looking at us. The spirit of pride So if you want to consume this all, this is the conforming parts of pride and what it maintains itself. Steal, kill, destroy, manipulator, liar, conform, stubborn, stiff-necked, hard-hearted, ferocious, fierce, cruel, violent, selfish, arrogant, develop heart that fights against God. That becomes us. That is the conforming spirit of pride. And so when we say that he has great pride in his work, she has great pride in his work, when we're operating in that pride, it's not a great place for us to be. When we operate in pride, we actually bring the spirit of the enemy back here on earth. And so we need to really understand the concept of what pride is and where it comes from. And now in our next show, we will actually identify how it actually shows up in your business, because we wonder, why is our business so chaotic? Why is business so hard? Well, we need to identify some of those other areas where business becomes hard. But again, pride, the thorns of pride, are something that we can get. If we conform to the characteristics, those thorns are already showing up in our business. That's the issue that we're in. We become very responsive to things that we're unaware of. I encourage you to make sure that you jot down notes in the next week's show, because this is going to really tie some things together for you to actually help expose some things that you didn't know were happening in your business. I want you to help you understand, you cannot choose your conform. You cannot in business be prideful and then in personal life not be prideful. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't even match. Okay? It's a prideful becomes a lifestyle. Your paradigm is your lifestyle. But there's part of that change that we're going to discuss, and we're going to open up the floodgates into your business now in our next show. So that way you understand and make sure you understand the connection. But again, thank you guys for enduring today's show. I hope, again, you replay this show and jot down some notes. And make sure that you understand all the scriptures that we brought up, because, again, this is all the things that are going to point to pride to actually help you break down those areas. But, again, also help you understand next week's show. I want to thank you guys for joining us again. Catch us live on Facebook, and also share with us on YouTube. But in the meantime, we actually have to get back to work. I want to thank you guys so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.